Let's get some analysis of where the conflict is at. Joining me is Major General retired Gus McLachlan, who's now a senior advisor at Bondi Partners. Gus McLachlan, thanks for your time. 1 week into the conflict, is it too early to give any predictions or statements as to what the final outcome might be?
Thanks, Kieran. It is important we realise a week is a very short time in a campaign like this. I'll just remind people that in 2003, one of the most powerful military forces ever assembled took 26 days to advance up from Kuwait to Baghdad. So a week is a relatively short time. But we have learned a lot. We've learned that the Ukrainians' defence has been very effective. In the military, we have a saying that the moral is to the physical 3:1, meaning that fighting power is linked to morale. And President Zelensky's leadership, the leadership of other officials, celebrities, and the average Ukrainian has meant that they have performed incredibly well and very stoically. However, this brutal Russian machine is also very powerful, and we have, sadly, another saying in the military that firepower also matters. And we're just starting to see the Russians bare their fangs, and your previous story indicates that the gloves are coming off in certain areas, and we're seeing rockets, artillery, targeting urban centres. And I think at this stage it's an early message from President Putin to the people of the Ukraine that those fangs will come out and that the next phase will be brutal. So we're learning a lot. It's early, and it's too early to forecast overall success. But I still fear very much for the people of Ukraine that the amount of force that the Russians have brought to bear will probably lead to the annexation of at least the areas east of the Dnieper River and perhaps Kiev down to the Black Sea area of Crimea.
Now, when you were in the army, you were a senior campaign planner for the international coalition back in around 2013 in Afghanistan. Does Putin face a similar sort of ongoing insurgency potentially in Ukraine, even if he does seize control?
Yes, is the short answer. I think he forecast, or perhaps advisors were forecasting for him, that some of the Russian-speaking Ukrainian population might come over in support of the Russian attack. It doesn't appear that that's going to be the case. And yes, sadly, I've had experiences of 2 military campaigns in Iraq and Afghanistan where we actually fumbled the initial goodwill of the people that led to protracted insurgency campaigns and tragically with the scenes in Kabul recently with the collapse of the Afghan regime, we can see how difficult it is, even after 20 years of relatively well-intentioned intervention, these things don't work. So Putin will have studied that history very closely. And I'm reminded that, again, when Rumsfeld was the US Secretary of Defense and thought that these small, hard-edged forces could overthrow Iraq, General Shinseki, his chief of the army staff, said it's going to take 400,000, not 100,000 people to subdue Iraq. And I think Shinseki was the one that was proven to be correct. So Putin will no doubt be facing a prolonged and protracted and bloody insurgency, particularly given the resolve and leadership that the Ukrainian people have shown so far.
You were responsible for generating the ADF's cyber space capacity and electronic warfare, building up that capacity when you were in the army. Give me a read on what the Russian cyber response has been like in terms of this conflict.
Yeah, we were expecting, Kieran, that this would be one of the Russian strengths. In previous invasions, and you note they've invaded Georgia and more recently the southeastern Ukraine, Donetsk area in 2013-14, we saw very significant cyber interventions in those conflicts. We saw disruption of what we call operational technology, so the ability to reach in and shut down water purification, traffic lights, hospital systems, and so on. What we haven't seen in this case is that same level of cyber domain success. And one of the reasons might be this incredible response by what I'm going to call hacktivism. it appears that a combination of, no doubt, the state-sponsored capabilities in the West, and you'll note that our Prime Minister has said that he would offer cyber support. I'm sure the Cyber Command in the US, UK, GCHQ and others are involved, but we've also seen a popular mobilisation of incredible support from white hat hackers, from cybersecurity businesses. And what has resulted is that the Ukrainians have been able to maintain control of the internet, which has been quite a stunning surprise. The Internet Observatory run by Monash University tracks internet access and performance globally during a conflict. And what we've seen from them is, at the moment, close to between 85 and 100% of normal internet service in Kiev, for example, continues. So the much vaunted Russian cyber capability has been blunted in this case.
Very interesting elements of this, Gus McLachlan. Just finally, what sort of impact and reverberations does the conflict in Ukraine have on our own strategic outlook?
Yeah, and look, I wish I had great news for our viewers with floods and pandemics around, but this is a very significant issue for Australia as well. This isn't just a European problem. Other global leaders will be watching Putin's performance very, very closely, whether it's President Xi in China, who's got aspirations to return Taiwan to the fold, whether it's North Korean leadership and so on. Now, I think the resolve that Western nations have shown, the combined alignment in the West, we've seen incredible shifts. The German government announcing that they will probably double defence spending. We've seen Sweden and Finland indicate that they may move toward NATO. We've seen Switzerland, who didn't even sanction Adolf Hitler, has put sanctions on Putin. And I think that level of resolve, plus the performance of the Ukrainian people in defending their nation, may send a message to some of those other world leaders that attacking and annexing another territory in the 21st century is much harder than they thought.
Yep, indeed. And we'll be watching it closely. Very much appreciate your analysis, Gus McLachlan, retired Major General and now Senior Advisor at Bondi Partners. Thanks for that.
Thanks for having me, Kieran.